That's Based with Caleb Salvatore is a comedic informative production, meaning it covers serious topics in a humorous manner. Some of the opinions expressed are satirical hyperbole, some are not. Some of the content may not be suitable for all listeners. If you're easily offended, tune out now. We don't want pussy bleeding little bitches consuming our content. I have dementia and pooped my pants while visiting the Pope.
Welcome to That's Based. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore. We're laughing our way through the end of days. We're brought to you by Outlaw Streamers reporting from somewhere underground. Also, shout out to our sponsors over at Beach House Bar and Grill in Omaha, Nebraska. You go to beachhouse-omaha.com for more information. By the way, they've got karaoke every Monday, poker every Tuesday. Wednesdays, they've got trivia. That's tonight. Go to Beach House, just north of 103rd and 4th Street in Omaha, right between Quick Trip and the police station. Thursdays, they have music bingo, and then right after that, they have open mic. They've also got my show this Saturday, Verbal Assault Comedy Roast Battles. 12 comedians, 6 winners, no hard feelings. We only do this show a couple times a year, and it's always a packed house. So come on down, hang out for a little bit. Tickets are $10 cash at the door or on eTix. And the 5th, they have Joshua Powell. It's Iron Maiden meets Allman Brothers. That's how it's described to me. Blue Venue on the 10th. Motley Screw with Castor Voller on the 11th. King of Diamonds on the 17th. Reggae Night on the 18th. And the 25th, they have Ed Archibald in the USB, followed by Friday the 31st, Blues Agent. Again, this Saturday. That's the one you want to go to, though, right? If you can. Go to that one. Verbal Assault Comedy Roast Battle. Always a hell of a time. 20% of all profits are going to go toward helping rebuild for the tornadoes that struck Omaha this week. By the way, thank you to everyone that reached out about that. That was some crazy stuff. We are fine. We didn't have any. I mean, it hailed. My car didn't even get dented. Like, it was not bad at all. We actually live, so the tornado struck the northwest part of the city. We actually don't live in Omaha. We live about 2-3 miles south of the city. So we're kind of out doing our own thing. It all missed us. There was a storm that blew through, but even that storm went to the east of us. So I wasn't even, we got next to nothing out here. So I appreciate everyone that was concerned. I got a lot of DMs and stuff. So thank you guys so much for that. But no, we're fine. Nothing wrong here. It takes a lot more than a little rain to kill me. But we will be raising money on the 4th for the victims of the tornadoes out there. And it was a monstrosity what it did down there. If you guys haven't looked up the videos of the tornado or seen the pictures, go check it out. It was horrific what happened out there. And we're going to be giving the money to St. Patrick's Church out in Elkhorn, I believe, unless it's changed, who's doing a bunch of food and supply drives for people out there. So if you want somewhere to give money to, you can go head over to St. Patrick's Church in Elkhorn. Just do a quick Google search, Facebook, whatever you can, and they'll be able to help you out. They seem to be leading the way on everything. If you're looking for a way to help and maybe you can't be there physically, but you do want to donate financially, that's the way to do it. Also, before we get into the show this week, this is the Wednesday midweek check-in, by the way. Check out this shirt I got. I partnered with this company, this clothing line called Who Touched the Thermostat. If you go to whotouchedit.com, you can get it. It says Joe McCarthy was right. Joe McCarthy, obviously the senator who made the list of communists that he believed had infiltrated both Washington, D.C. and Hollywood. Turned out he was right. He was a senator from Wisconsin. The history books like to vilify him as some type of monster, but he was more right than a lot of people were willing to give him credit for. We'll put it that way. Look into it. We prove every week on this show how Joe McCarthy was right. Okay. Again, that's whotouchedit.com. You can get one of these shirts for yourself. They're dope. They fit really. It's not like those shitty T-shirts you get that are just made to order. Like, this feels nice. I could work out in it. It breathes. It's real nice. Real nice here. All right. We're doing a little bit different of a show this week. I'm full disclosure. I am recovering from a stomach bug. I feel like I'm fine now. I'm still a little dehydrated, but we're doing the thing. So we're doing a little bit different of a show this week. We're going to be doing the news on Saturday for the big show. Tune in there, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, mind you. But with that said, what we're going to do this week, we're 6 months, almost 6 months, to the election. 6 months from the election on November 5th, 6 months and 4 days. We're 6 months from the election, so I want to do a check-in, a midweek check-in, if you will, as far as where we are, what it's going to look like, and kind of what the path forward looks like. And, for sane people like us, what's the path to victory? So I've got this. This is yapms.com, yet another political map simulator that we're using to do this. They're an awesome tool if you haven't seen it before. We're going to do the Senate and then the presidency. So I'll go ahead and pull this one up. We're going to do the Senate first. So here's where we're at in the Senate. I'm going to mark all the states that the Democrats are going to win in blue, in dark blue, right? Hands down, dark blue means more than 10%. The Democrats are going to win by. Greens are independents. Mind you, the two independents in the Senate both caucus with the Democrats as well. So dark blue is 10% or more. This moderate blue here, that's 5 to 10%. That I feel the Democrats are going to win by. Moderate green as well. So that's where you got, what do we see? We got 40 seats that the Democrats are hands down going to win going into November here. So it's a lot up for interpretation, plus the two independents, so 42. And here's the dark reds, the Republicans. That red dot right there is Pete Ricketts. He's running for a special election in Nebraska. Joe Manchin, that's a flip right there. Joe Manchin in West Virginia recently decided he's not going to run again. So Joe Manchin that seat's going to be given to, a Republican's going to win that seat. There's absolutely no chance the Democrat wins there. We've got Florida and Texas going to go light red there. Florida and Texas go light red. I think they'll be, just because of the nature of Ted Cruz running, I think it's always up in the air a little bit, but I still see him winning there. And then I'm going to give Deb Fischer in Nebraska the light red treatment too. And that might be a little controversial for people. Some people might wonder what the hell's going, like, why would you give Deb, like, that's a dark red state, Caleb. Here's the thing though. We interviewed the guy she's running against, Dan Osborne. You can say listen, I know there were opinions expressed about that interview. That's fine. You guys take it however you want. He's not a Democrat. He's an independent, and he doesn't have traditional blue views. He's conservative on enough issues that he could put up a fight. It also happens to be in a presidential election year where the chief presidential candidate for the Republican Party is going to bring out a lot of anti-establishment people. Fischer is about as establishment swamp as it gets. I think you're going to see some people that throw some protest votes toward Dan Osborne because he's not a Democrat and they're sick of the status quo and they want to send a message to Fischer and the Republicans. I still think she wins, probably by like 8 or 9%, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer than a lot of people are comfortable with here. So that leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 states that are up in the air. 8 states that are up in the air. You got 42 Democrats when you count the independents. You've got 50 Republicans. So the Republicans, all they got to do is win the presidential election. They get the vice president. That's the tiebreaker. And they have the swing vote. So let's break these races down one by one here, shall we? Let's go from coast to coast, west to east, right? We'll shout out to Art Bell there. Let's start with Nevada. Let's start out with Nevada. Nevada's a state that the Republicans seem to be making a ton of gains in. Ton of gains over in Nevada. Let me get my map pulled back up here. Mia's not with us for the Wednesday show. You guys know that. But based on polling, though, Republicans seem to be making a ton of gains in Nevada, in the state of Nevada. I don't know if that's going to be enough, though. It's a lot harder to unseat a senator that people are used to, especially in such uncertain times, than it is to win a presidential election in a swing state like that. So Jackie Rosen's the incumbent there. By all accounts, right now, it looks like the person running against her, her chief challenger, is going to be Sam Brown. Now, Sam Brown is a business owner. He's a decorated Army veteran. He actually ran for Senate in Nevada 2 years ago. Here's my thing with Sam Brown, and I'm not being a dick. This is the reality here. In 2008, Sam Brown was stationed over in Afghanistan, right? He's a war hero, absolutely thankful for his service. He got wounded by an IED. 30% of his body was burnt to a crisp. 30%, including his face. And I'm not being a dick here. I'm just holding up the mirror and pointing out the reality of the situation, which is that, like it or not, a lot of politics is, can you get in front of people and win them over? Are you a pretty face? Now, it's not all the time, but when you're the underdog, you need everything to go your way. You need everything you can get. And again, it's absolutely horrible what happened to this guy, and I know you're going to crucify me in the comments. I don't think he's electable because of his face. As bad as that sounds. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments on Rumble if you think I'm wrong. But I'm going to give this one a lean Democrat for Nevada, for the state of Nevada. Because of that. And he's also trailing in every single poll. Whereas Adam Laxalt, who ran in Nevada 2 years ago, was much closer or winning in every single poll. So I'm going to give this actually a tilt Democrat, so I think they'll win that by 2% or less. Next up is Arizona. The great state of Arizona. We'll go down and up and then back around. How about that? I'm going to leave a couple states out, though. Arizona. So Arizona, you've got Kirsten Sinema. She's a former Democrat, one of the few sane Democrats in the Senate. She decided she wasn't going to run in 2024. She's not going to run for re-election. She actually switched over to an independent. So Ruben Gallego is now the presumptive nominee for the Democrats over there in Arizona. He is a representative for their 3rd congressional district. He's been there since 2015. Running against him will be most likely Kari Lake. There's a couple other people running, but it's probably going to be her. Kari Lake, again, this is a state Trump has led in most of the polls in. Kari Lake ran for governor 2 years ago. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, Kari Lake has got a whole lot of baggage to her. She does. She threw the big stink, and I agree, there were some inconsistencies with the election. But as long as she's drawn this out, she knew what they were going to do. She worked in media her entire career. She gave the mainstream media the ammunition to go after her and paint her as a sore loser and a traitor to democracy. She's also got a couple other things that aren't going for her. She's been critical of John McCain. John McCain, as we all know, pretty popular guy in the state of Arizona. You can't really go after John McCain if you want to have any type of political future in Arizona. There's also some other red flags from the right here. I mean, this woman worked on the Obama campaign. She was a registered Democrat most of her life. I get the vibe that she is a grifter. Correction. She was not a Democrat most of her life. She's independent. She switched parties like 5 or 6 times. I get the vibe she's a grifter. I don't trust her. I don't trust her, and I'm worried she's our version of Stacey Abrams, which is the professional loser. Because remember, there was a while the Democrats fell in love with what I like to call the professional losers. So it was people like Stacey Abrams in Georgia, Beto O'Rourke in Texas, more local, Cara Eastman, who ran for Nebraska's 2nd district like 3 or 4 times, got beat by Don Bacon, of all people. They became very, very in love with these celebrity candidates that, yeah, they made a lot of noise and they got a lot of attention, but they were all unelectable, and people got really, really tired of them. And I think this is our version of that. I'm not a fan of hers. I don't think she's electable. I think we can do better than her. And she's one that I think needs to go away. I know. Give me flack for that. I don't care. Go ahead. But nonetheless, I'm going to give that one tilts Democrat as well. Let's head over to Pennsylvania. Can we call Pennsylvania a blue state? Can we call it that? Can we stop pretending we have a chance in Pennsylvania? Maybe for the presidency, but let's stop pretending we have any type of chance to win a Senate seat in Pennsylvania. You had John Fetterman. John Fetterman, the guy who could not form a complete sentence.
Big, stupid, ugly ogre.
John Fetterman beat Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz, the TV doctor, scam artist, whatever you want to call him. I mean, the Republican Party in Pennsylvania is so inept that I don't see them winning in this election. In fact, I think the incumbent is going to, Bob Casey Jr., is going to win by more than 2%. I think he wins with ease. I think like 6 or 7%. So we're going to call Pennsylvania leans Democrat. All right, next up, let's hop over to Michigan. The Republican Party in Michigan is an absolute disaster. An absolute disaster. Remember, they had 5 people get yanked off the ballot 2 years ago for the governor race because they screwed up the petitions. I mean, they're a train wreck. They had found their lead candidate, a guy in James Craig. He was a former police chief in Detroit. Been there for a long time. He was one of them that got disqualified from running for governor in 2022. He was a guy who was, like I said, was actually polling somewhat well. He was the odds-on favorite to win. And then he decides, you know what? Nah, I think I'm going to drop out. I'm good. And now it's back in shambles. So here's what the Republicans have. This primary is still somewhat open, right? There's 4 people running here. 4 people running. You've got Mike Rogers. He's a former representative from Michigan. He likes to troll on Twitter a lot. He was there for 14 years. Sandy Pensler, the former Wayne County commissioner. Sherry O'Donnell, who is a physician and ran for Congress in 2022. And you have Justin Amash, who was a representative in Michigan for 10 years, actually left the Republican Party while he was in Congress and became a libertarian. I'm actually a big fan of Amash. I think he's probably the most electable. This is a guy who he's not a full-blown conservative. He doesn't toe the party line on everything. He got so fed up with a lot of their bullshit. In 2020, he left the party. He was the first ever libertarian in Congress. You know, he's anti-government spying, anti-foreign intervention. He wants to legalize marijuana, gay marriage, kind of leave people alone approach. He has parents who are Arab Christian immigrants that left Palestine to get away from Hamas, because it turns out you can do that. You can move out of Palestine. It's not the open-air prison that a lot of the retards on Twitter want you to think it is. So he's a guy who he left Palestine, or his parents did, to get away from the Islamic extremist rule over there. And obviously they did a pretty good job at raising their son. He turned out to be a U.S. congressman. So those are your 4 candidates. I think Amash has the best chance of winning. But there's also the fact that Amash was very much a critic of Trump when he was in office. He agreed with Trump on a lot of the stuff he was good on, but he had absolutely no problem calling him out on his bullshit. So I think that could hurt him as well. So if he does win the primary, which it's tough to do when you're not a fan of Trump or when you're at least critical of him in today's Republican Party, I think he may have problems motivating a lot of the people that would come out and vote. Those people may, write in an independent or Green Party or whoever. But I think he's the most electable, but I don't think he has any chance in the primary. I think Mike Rogers is going to take it. So I'm going to give this one lean Democrat as well, just because the Michigan Republican Party is in absolute shambles. So let's do it. Let's do a scoreboard check here. That's 50-46. Republicans are up. You got 4 states left. And these are the 4 big ones. These are the 4 where you probably got the best shot here. Montana, Wisconsin, Ohio, and surprise, Maryland. That's right. And I'm going to get to that one last, right? So Ohio is a state that's been trending red. They had a guy in J.D. Vance back in 2022 that a lot of people thought was unelectable, controversial, didn't have any political experience. He was an author and a public speaker, and Donald Trump endorsed him in the primary. He pulled off the upset. Now, that was a seat that was already Republican. They weren't going up against an incumbent. You had the incumbent Republican retired. This is a different story. This is Sherrod Brown, This is a guy who's been the incumbent senator since 2007 in Ohio. So he's got some experience. And like I said, familiarity goes a long way in these types of races. So Sherrod Brown has painted himself as a moderate, despite voting with Democrats like 85% of the time. But he's done a good job at painting himself as a moderate, so this is a tough guy to beat. So the Republicans had a couple different candidates. They had Matt Dolan, who was a state senator. They had Frank LaRose, who was the Secretary of State, that was actually leading in the polls against Brown, or at least performing the best. And then they had a guy named Bernie Moreno. Bernie Moreno is a former car dealership owner, and he's the father-in-law of U.S. Representative Max Miller out in Ohio in their 7th district. He got elected last year, 2 years ago. Bernie also ran for Senate in 2022, lost to J.D. Vance in the primary. So Bernie Moreno got the Trump endorsement. He got the Trump endorsement, and that pushed him forward, or pushed him through, to win the primary. Let's go back here. Bernie Moreno is down in every single poll. Now, Brown was winning in most of the other polls, but they were much more competitive, and you would see the occasional outlier where the Republican was leading. That's not the case here. Now, I see some of these, and I see him down by 6, 7, 8, 10%. I don't think I believe that. I don't buy that for a second. I think that Donald Trump, being as popular as he is in Ohio, which is a state that, like I said, it's a purple state that's trending red. I think Donald Trump, being as popular as he is over there, is going to make this a close race. The question is, can we win this one with the candidate that was the least electable of the big three? That's the question. Did Donald Trump screw us yet again, like he did with Herschel Walker in Georgia, like he did with Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania? Did he screw us over yet again in this race? So there's your first question mark. This second one is Wisconsin. Head over to the great state of Wisconsin, the cheeseheads over there in Green Bay, right? Are still upset they lost Aaron Rodgers. So we're going to put Ohio as a question mark. Now, remember, the White House isn't a guarantee. So the Republicans, even though it's a tie right now and they get the tiebreaker if they won the presidency, we can't take that as a given. Wisconsin's a winnable state because you already got a Republican there in Ron Johnson for the other Senate seat. The problem, though, there's a couple problems here. Problem is, once again, Tammy Baldwin, the incumbent Democrat for this seat, has been there for a long time. And like I said, lots of people like familiarity, especially in these uncertain times. Tough to unseat incumbents in races like this. That's problem number one. Problem number two is her opponent, Eric Hovde, I don't know, however you want to pronounce it. Her presumptive opponent, I should say, is once again, I mean, this is a guy who is a hedge fund manager and chairman of a bank. Now, where's Wisconsin located? Let me pull the map up for those of you that are geographically challenged. Wisconsin's right here. Wisconsin's in the Rust Belt, right? It's tough to, I'm sorry, I just think it's tough to sell a hedge fund manager to the swing state voters working blue-collar union jobs in Wisconsin. Not that a U.S. senator's any better, but I don't think that he's going to be enough to tilt the needle in our favor. I don't know. I have concerns. Let me know if you disagree with me in the comments. So that leads us to two different states here. So we've got two different states here. Montana. Let's go to Montana. That's a dark red state. How the hell is the Democrat, the incumbent there, John Tester? Again, we've got a guy who's been in office since 2007, hopped on, that 06 bandwagon with how unpopular George W. Bush was during, the Iraq War and the recession and everything. He's been there for a long time, and he's been like a cancer. Every time they think they're about to get rid of him, he comes roaring back and wins it in the last second. A little sus, if you ask me. But they love him there because, again, this is a guy who is, despite voting with Democrats, I think it's over 90% of the time, this is a guy who's painted himself as a moderate. He's painted himself as a moderate, big, dumb farmer that Montanans can relate to. So the question now is, how do we beat him. We had a couple people running in Montana against him, running for the Republican primary. You had a guy named Matt Rosendale, who's been a representative in the state of Montana for a long time, actually ran against, or excuse me, he's been in there for 4 years, not a long time. He ran against Tester in 2018 and lost. It was a close one, but he lost. And that was Trump's first midterm, so that's tough. He lost by just under 3%, just over 3%. You had him. He dropped out. You've got Charles Walkingchild, who seems to be a long shot. You've got Brad Johnson, the former chair of the Montana Public Service Commission for 8 years and the former Secretary of State for 4. And then you've got Tim Sheehy, who is a businessman, founded an aerospace company, and retired Navy SEAL. Now, Tim Sheehy, in all of the hypothetical polls, has polled the worst between him and Rosendale, who were, well, actually, no, Johnson, but him and Sheehy and Rosendale were pretty much the only two that had a chance. Sheehy, of course, polled worse than Rosendale, but Rosendale dropped out after Sheehy received, guess whose endorsement? Donald Trump's. Hope this doesn't bite us in the ass. Now, John Tester, like I said, paints himself as a moderate Democrat. He's really not. He's not. He votes with them close to 90% of the time. The only thing he's really different from them on is the assault, quote-unquote, assault weapons ban. And he's basically ridden that to several re-elections because you can't be anti-gun in Montana and win. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to work. So that's another one that's a big question mark. I don't know how winnable that is. You got a guy that's familiar. We had a guy from where I'm from named Ben Nelson. He was a Democrat, and he was a typical sleazy politician in Nebraska. He was governor for a long time, then senator forever, and it was the same thing. They just couldn't get rid of him. No matter what they did, how much money they threw at it, they couldn't get rid of Ben Nelson. They had to wait for him to retire, and I'm worried that this is a similar situation here. Ben Nelson would parade himself around as a moderate so he could get the conservative vote and then stab us in the back. And I'm worried that that's what's going to happen here because they couldn't get rid of him until he retired because the average voter, let's be honest, is pretty fucking stupid, you guys. That's just kind of how it works. Okay. So that's a big question mark. I would not count on that one the same way that I would count on a state like West Virginia to flip, which is almost a guarantee. Like, we're not even Jim Justice, the former governor, he's a Republican, he's going to win and flip that state. There's no chance that the Democrats win. Trump wins that state by 20 to 30% every time. He's going to carry him to victory there, no question. So that leaves us to the last state. The last state, and it's a surprising one. Last second, mind you. A lot of people didn't see it coming. And the fact that we're relying on this state is trouble. Maryland, one of the darkest blue states in the country. Maryland could be our last hope to flip the Senate red. And you're asking me, how does that work, Caleb? How the hell does that work? Well, there's a couple things that... There's a couple factors that work out beneficially to us, right? That work out kind of in our favor and tilt the scales a little bit. The first one is the incumbent Ben Cardin, who's a Democrat, is not running for re-election. First key right there. That's a big one. The second one, the second factor that's helping us is the presumptive Republican nominee, Larry Hogan, is the former governor of Maryland. It's tough for a Republican to get elected in Maryland, a blue state like that. And he's not as conservative as we'd like, but he's as good as you're going to get in a state like Maryland. So Larry Hogan appears to be our last hope. Now, a lot of times you'll see guys that were, governor in a blue state 10 years ago, and then they decide to run for Senate again, and they get killed because nobody remembers them. Larry Hogan's different. He just got done with his term. He just finished. Again, this is an anti-Trump, moderate East Coast Republican. So even if he wins, this isn't a huge win. I'll read the people that have endorsed this guy. John Bolton, the former national security advisor, never met a war he didn't like. Mitch McConnell, the No Labels Party, Marsha Blackburn. I mean, it's just rhino uniparty establishment hacks for days. Not a fan of this guy, but he's better than either of the borderline commies that the Democrats are running. And evidently the people of Maryland agree with me because they've taken about, 6 polls now. 5 polls in 2024, excuse me. And he's been in the lead in every single one, but one where he was tied, and that was in February. The last 3, he's had a commanding lead of double digits every time, no matter who they polled him against. So Larry Hogan may be the last hope. So that's where we're at right here. Let's go back to this map. Look at that map. We got Montana, Wisconsin. Why is Wisconsin like that? We got Ohio. Ooh. And we got Maryland. So the Senate's going to be tough to win because we nominate bad candidates and our parties are in shambles. Those are our 4 hopes. If you put a gun to my head right now, I think Wisconsin and Ohio both stay blue. I think Maryland probably turns red. And then Montana, I don't think he's going to win but I think he wins by about 5%. And then Montana, flip a coin. So that puts you at 51-48. And then Montana going either way. In reality, you've got people like Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, Susan Collins in Maine, and now Larry Hogan over in Maryland. So it's not Mitt Romney's retiring, by the way, thank God, in Utah, but that's solid red either way. So it's not exactly ideal circumstances to have a majority. So you really, really want to win one of these states like Montana, one of these states like Nevada, Arizona, Ohio, so you can have at least another conservative voice in there that's going to counter the uniparty. Again, not the biggest Kari Lake fan, but she will counter the establishment in the uniparty, at least from what I've seen. Okay, let's do the president real quick here, and then we'll get out of here. Let's do the presidency. Remember, you need 270 electoral votes to win. I'll do all the obvious blue ones here. You got Vermont, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, D.C., Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Illinois, Colorado, California, Oregon, Washington. That's all states that Democrats are easily going to win by more than 10% of the vote. Then let's hop over here. 5 to 10%. I think they win. Maine's 1st district, because remember, Maine and Nebraska separate their votes by about, or separate their electoral votes by congressional district. Much to our dismay, I might add. By the way, Maine did say if Nebraska if Nebraska becomes a winner-take-all state, they'll consider doing the same to counter that. Maine's obviously much more of a swing state than Nebraska, still not ideal. So Maine is Maine's 1st district. I'm going to say that's 5 to 10% Democrat. I'm going to say New York goes 5 to 10% Democrat, which is a little bit of a surprise. That's a dark blue state. Remember, you got a couple factors going into place there. There's people in New York are pissed at Joe Biden. People in New York hate the Democrats because of the immigration stuff going on, because they're being gaslit on crime. They're telling them it's going down while simultaneously deploying the National Guard. It's complete bullshit. So people in New York are fed up with the Democrats. I think you've also going to have so I think you're going to see a sharp red turn in New York. Not enough to win it, though. I think then you've got New Jersey. I'm going to call 5 to 10% Democratic as well. That's always the most conservative leaning of those states over there is New Jersey. So we'll put that. Minnesota, I'm going to call 5 to 10%. New Mexico, 5 to 10%. You may be able to push New Mexico to that 2 to 5, but I don't know. I think, with the border and everything going on, people are pretty fed up down there. But actually, no, sorry, not Minnesota. I don't know. Then I'm going to put Hawaii in that 5 to 10% as well. Hawaii, again, you got people fed up with Democrats from the hurricanes. New Hampshire, I'm probably going to put in the 5 to 10% Democrat. That seems to be a uniparty establishment hack state. I think they're gonna go pretty hard for Biden. They're not fans of Donald Trump. And then leading Democrats are 2 to 5%. I'm going to put Minnesota. And I'm going to put Maine. And that's what you got leaning Democrat. Now let's do Republicans. Republicans, dark red states. You got Utah, you got Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska's third district and the state as a whole. Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina. Oh, sorry, I forgot Virginia. Virginia, we're going to put 2 to 5% Democrat as well. Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana. I think those are slam dunk states for Republicans in 2024. Now we'll do the 5 to 10%. So they're going to win by more than 10% in all of those states we just listed. 5 to 10%. I'm going to put Ohio. I think Trump wins Ohio by at least 5%. Florida, Texas, Alaska, and Nebraska's first district, which may come as a surprise, but I'm from Nebraska's first district. And let me tell you, this district, I'm not from there. That's why we were from Omaha, which is the second district, which is a big swing district. But Joe Biden won it in 2020. But this district's a little bit more liberal than you'd think. There's a big boom of people coming from out of Omaha that wanted to escape the big city politics and bullshit, moving into that district. And of course, just like you see with California voters that move to Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada, and Texas, they continue to vote for the things that made them move out of the previous place they were living in the first place. So I will say, I'm not under any illusion that Donald Trump's going to lose this district, but it is one that's going to be a little bit closer, I think, than people are willing to admit. That's a lot of suburban voters there. It's called Sarpy County, which is, again, where I'm from, in Lancaster County, which is a very, very liberal, has the very, very liberal city, which is the capital, and a college town of Lincoln make up the majority of that district. So it's going to be a little bit closer than maybe it has in recent years. Iowa, I'm going to say leans. I'm going to put that 5 to 10 as well. And then I'm going to put Maine's second district 5 to 10% as well. So here we go. 2 to 5% Republican. Who's a leaner? Who's a leaner? Those are the likely. Who's a leaner? I'm going to put North Carolina. North Carolina, there's a couple factors in North Carolina that make it difficult. I like the guy running for governor, Mark Robinson. He's very based. I don't know how electable he is in a swing state like that. Not sure if he's a winner down there. I think that may hurt Donald Trump, but nonetheless, I think Trump wins. It's basically these two states. North Carolina and Georgia are leading red. If Donald Trump doesn't win North Carolina and Georgia, you can forget it. Forget about 2024. We got 4 more years of Biden. I hope you have your finances in order. That's basically where it's at. He's got to win those. Those are absolute must-wins, just like Florida, just like Ohio, just like Iowa. He's not winning those. You're in big trouble. So North Carolina and Georgia lean to Donald Trump. I think he wins by 2 to 5%. He could win North Carolina by more than 5. Georgia as well, depending on how the black vote in Atlanta shakes up, because I know a lot of black voters down south. Biden made a lot of promises to them that he couldn't keep. So that could shake things up. So that really leaves us with 6 states here. 6 states. You got 251 for the Republicans, 225 for the Democrats. Mind you, you need 270 to win. So the Republicans need 19. The Democrats need 45. And some late night ballot drops, maybe. This isn't accounting for that. So we'll go over that in a minute. But no, so here, all of these polls. Well, so Nebraska's second district, I don't think they've really done a comprehensive poll on that yet. But all of these states are well within the margin of error. All of these states could go either way. Nevada, for whatever reason, Donald Trump's up 5 to 6% in the polls, but Nevada recently has been the one state that overestimates Republican support in the polls. So I don't know about that one. I would give that to him as a leaner, but I don't know. Arizona, also, I mean, a traditionally red state for the most part, but again, you've got the crisis at the border that's gone on, where they've basically replaced a lot of conservative voters or canceled their votes out with people they've let in and let become citizens, and you've got a lot of questionable stuff going on with the elections down there. Remember, the governor used to be the Secretary of State, won under some pretty shady circumstances in the election, which she oversaw, mind you. The voting machines in the conservative parts of the most populated counties all went down. They showed up and told people, hey, just give us your votes here. We'll take them down to City Hall. Don't worry about it. We got you. And there are a lot of questions there. So Arizona is a shady state that I wouldn't count on. You need to win one of these Rust Belt states up here. We need to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin. You got to win that. So I think Pennsylvania, obviously Pennsylvania, I think is the hardest to win, and because Biden is supposedly from there, whatever. His dad in Scranton that showed him the gay couple holding hands. But nonetheless, I think that's a tough one to win. But if you win Pennsylvania, look at this. You win. It's over. All the states you assumed you were going to win, you win Pennsylvania. Biden can win Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada, and he still doesn't win. So you win Pennsylvania and don't drop North Carolina or Georgia or Texas or Florida or something stupid. You win. It's over. Now, let's say Biden wins Pennsylvania. That puts Biden at 244. Those polls are all within the margin of error. There's going to be some fuckery. Trump's winning in the most recent ones, but it's going to get closer, guys. It's going to get a lot closer. So let's say Biden wins Pennsylvania. What does Donald Trump have to do then? Biden's at 244, so he needs 26 votes to win. Donald Trump needs 19. So what do you do then? How does that work out? Well, the easiest way to do it, Michigan and Nevada. Boom, boom, you're done. Win. Doesn't matter what happens in Arizona or Wisconsin there. Michigan, again, though, you got to consider Donald Trump flipping Michigan in 2020 or 2016 was a huge deal. That hasn't happened in, I think, since Bush Sr. prior to that. So that's a big ask, especially with a Republican Party that's an absolute shambles and a governor that's a full-blown dictator who's looking to fix elections. We saw what happened in 2020. We saw what happened. I'm not big into the election conspiracies from 2020, but all I'm saying is you have, 80,000 and some votes come in, and they all vote for Biden in the middle of the night. Not a single one votes for Trump, libertarian candidate, for Kanye West, nobody. They all voted for Biden, and they didn't vote for any other races. They just 80,000 people said, hey, fuck the Senate, fuck the local races, fuck the House of Representatives races. We're going to vote for Joe Biden, and that's it, and we're going to mail it in. And they just, law of averages says that's impossible, but the gaslighter in chief wants you to believe that. So I'm not going to count on Michigan. I'm not going to count on Michigan. I'm going to put Michigan in the tilt. Or I'm not going to count on Michigan. I'm not going to put Michigan as a tilt because I think it's a toss-up. I think your best path to victory is to flip Arizona and Wisconsin. I think that's your path. So compared to 4 years ago, Trump would have flipped Georgia, Wisconsin, and Arizona. States he lost. I think that's your path to victory is Arizona and Wisconsin. Wisconsin, like I said, already has a Republican senator in Ron Johnson who's not up for re-election. But nonetheless, so here's how this can get really interesting, though. Let's say Donald Trump wins Arizona and Nevada. Biden wins Michigan and Wisconsin. That puts it at 269 for the Democrats to 268 for the Republicans with one electoral vote up for grabs. Now, who is that? That's my former hometown or my former place of residence in Omaha, Nebraska, Nebraska's 2nd district. This could very easily happen, guys. This could, like I said, all of these polls are within the margin of error in Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin. This could very well happen to where Omaha decides who wins. As someone who's from Omaha, I'm fucking terrified at the idea of that. So we could very well be in a timeline 6 months from now in November, 6 months and 4 days from now in November, where Omaha decides the 2024 presidential election. Decides whether or not we go to war with Russia. Decides whether or not we continue 4 more years of Bidenomics' destruction over our wallets. But here's the problem with this scenario. Again, Arizona and Nevada, this is why I say it's very, very plausible. Because of the 5 swing states, plus Omaha, Donald Trump is performing the best in the polls in Arizona and Nevada. He's performing his worst, even though he's winning in a lot of them, in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in the Rust Belt. This could very easily happen, there is a strong possibility, much higher than like 1%, that this happens. And here's the crazy part. So it's 269 to 268, Democrats in the lead. You need 270 to win. Let's say Trump wins Omaha, which he didn't 4 years ago. Let's say he flips it. He's also got the disadvantage there, mind you, of a horrible congressman named Don Bacon that Republicans and Democrats alike seem to hate. Hopefully, Dan Fry takes care of business in the primary there. Nonetheless, let's say he wins there, or let's say Trump wins there. It's 269 to 269. Nice, right? But it's 269 to 269. Then it goes to the House of Representatives. So what happens then if it goes to the House? We better hope we have the majority. But here's the reality. What have Republicans not been able to do in the House of Representatives all year? Well, I guess for the last 2 years. Agree on jack shit other than sending your money to Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan and anyone else who's not an American citizen. So you've got a Republican Party that's in shambles. And even if they win, which they're not projected to take the House, it's projected to be really close, within 2 or 3 votes. They barely got a lead now because they kick out good, honest men like George Santos. But they've barely got a lead right now. So let's say it goes to the House of Representatives and Republicans, let's say we hold on to our lead and we have like a 2-vote lead in the House. What do you think is more likely? That the Republicans can come to a general consensus to vote for Donald Trump when you got a lot of Republicans who hate Donald Trump. It's probably going to be split. We're going to see 2/3 or 3/4 are going to vote for Trump, and then the other fourth are going to vote for Nikki Haley or some shill. So what's more likely, that Republicans are going to come to a consensus and support Donald Trump when you've still got a lot of never-Trump Republicans in Congress and you have such a small margin for error, I'm talking 2 votes, or that the Democrats are going to be able to convince 2 or 3 members of the uniparty, of the establishment, to turn around and vote for Biden? That's the predicament we're in, and that's unfortunately where the electoral votes have left us. This is a real possibility of it going to the House of Representatives. And this would be, I wonder if it's ever happened before. I'm going to look it up. There was an election settled by the House of Representatives. There was. They met to elect the new president in 1825. 1825. It was Thomas Jefferson. Or excuse me, John Quincy Adams. My bad. So that was John Quincy Adams. Yep. Won the presidency through the House of Representatives. So that's where we're at. That's the reality of this election coming up. It's going to be super close. I know Trump's up in the polls. I know everyone's ready to spike the football because Biden's been horrible, but don't underestimate your opponent under any circumstances. Certainly do not underestimate their ability to cheat. Don't do that. And when I say cheat, I'm not talking ballot dumps. Yes, that might happen. I'm saying don't underestimate the fact that 99% of the mainstream media is in their back pockets. Don't underestimate the fact that we're not running against the Democrats. We're running against the establishment, the uniparty, the regime, and they have these little groups called the intelligence agencies that are also on their side. So we're going to have massive companies, intelligence agencies, the big pharma, the financial sector, entertainment and media, and the Democrats all against us, and some Republicans. It's going to be a tough fight. Do not underestimate their ability to cheat and manipulate the results of this election in more ways than just ballot drops. Now, it'll be much more sophisticated than that. You're talking psyops, propaganda, blatant lies, and defamation of character. You're seeing what they're doing to Trump and the justice system right now. They're making it so he can't campaign. That's what this is. I mean, it's Michael Avenatti, hardline Democrat, represented Stormy Daniels against Trump in court. He's a lawyer. He even said this is completely unprecedented. He's not getting his due process. He said, you have serial killers and pedophiles that have committed crimes across state lines, and they don't all get tried in different states at the same time. They wait until they're done. This is unprecedented. They're absolutely, in his opinion, going after him to make it so that he cannot campaign. That's what this is about. It's a political hit. It is a hatchet job. So you cannot underestimate the ability of your opponent to cheat. And when I see Donald Trump up by 2, 3, 4% in these polls in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, that's great. That's great, but you have to realize this is like playing the Kansas City Chiefs in a football game. How many you guys are NFL fans out there? You know what I'm talking about. When you play the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to outplay them by so much that it accounts for the cheating and the blown call. I shouldn't say cheating. That accounts for the conveniently blown calls and phantom penalties that are going to be called against you in the fourth quarter. Because that's how every NFL fan will tell you that. You go into halftime against the Chiefs up by less than 24 points. There's that thing in the back of your head. You know how this is going to go. You know those flags are going to start flying in the fourth quarter. Those phantom pass interference penalties are going to start coming in. They're going to be able to get away with murder whenever they want to, and you're going to get jobbed. You know you have to absolutely bury your opponent and leave nothing up for interpretation, nothing up to the imagination. Give them absolutely no chance to come back. Otherwise, they'll do it. And they're going to get a lot of help from their buddies in the black and white stripes. So keep that in mind. That's been our show. We'll see you guys on Saturday for the big show, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'm trying to get a guest on. We'll see if we can or not, but no promises. But yeah, that's all I got. Shout out to our other sponsors, Blood of Tyrants Wine, drinkbloodofTyrants.com, promo code BASED, BASED, like the title of the show, which, by the way, saves you 10% off your order on either their Red Merlot wine, their White Tears of Tyrants wine if you're gay, or the Liquid Freedom energy drink. The energy drink comes with 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, 0 fucks given, all natural ingredients. They make me clarify ingredients, not just all natural, because it comes from a juicer. But the ingredients that go through the juicer, which, by the way, those don't grow in nature, the ingredients that come through the juicer are all natural. So go ahead and drinkbloodofTyrants.com, promo code BASED, BASED, like the title of the show. That's all we got. We will see you guys Saturday. Saturday for the big show. Saturday at my show, March 4th. Yeah, May 4th. I got it right the first time. Jesus, Caleb. Stomach bug, dehydration, all kinds of stuff going on here. Saturday, May 4th, Beach House Bar and Grill, just north of 103rd and 4th Street in Omaha, Nebraska. Show at 9, doors at 8:30. The roast battles, come on, guys. We only do these a couple times a year. 20% of the profits are going to go toward rebuilding and aid for the victims of the tornado. So go out there, support a good cause more than just my wallet. How about that? We'll see you guys later. Cheat on your taxes, not your spouse. And as always, stay based.